Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on WMAL. Kerry Pickett's in for Mary Catherine this morning. It's me, Brian Neiman, and Brian Wilson. James Carafano is on the line, national security expert at the Heritage Foundation. Morning, James.
Good morning.
Listen, I watched a lot of fun stuff last night, good back and forth at the Republican presidential debate on national security, but I wanted to start with the super committee, and I've been reading all about it. A lot of people yesterday were saying this is a horrible thing that's going to happen to defense, saying that these cuts are going to affect the military today. Can you clarify something for me? Will the military, because Rand Paul on CNN over the weekend said what's going to happen is instead of having a 23% increase in spending over 10 years for the military, it's only going to be 16%, which to me doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal.
Doesn't sound draconian.
It's also wrong.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Is that wrong, and can you break it down for how much will the military actually have more money next year or less money in its budget compared to this year?
See, this is because President Obama has been, playing, the shell game since he came in office. So the first thing he did is he took most of the costs for the war in Afghanistan and he put them inside the base budget. But he didn't plus up the base budget, right? So what that did is it pushed other spending out. So in terms of what you're actually spending on the military, that was a cut right there, right? So if you were spending $100 billion on whatever, buying planes or installations or more troops, right? You put that in. You put the cost of the war in there. That spending gets pushed aside. So and then when he draws down out of the wars in Afghanistan, that goes away. So there's actually about I guess it's about close to $400 billion of cuts that are already on the books. So already without the automatic cuts or whatever, we're going to have a smaller and less capable military. Will be well on the path to that at the end of the president's term. That's not debatable. I mean, Rand Paul can say whatever he wants. That's not debatable. Now, if you add on top of that the other cuts, then I think we're really going to be a second-class military power because we're still going to have worldwide commitments, but we're going to be stretched all over the world, and so anywhere we are, we can match. And I mean, look, just look at this on the face of it. In the automatic cuts, defense takes 50% of the cuts. Now, defense is less than 1/5 of the federal budget, and it's going to take 50% of the cuts. I mean, so people can, and that all came out in the debate. You can whistle past the graveyard all you want. You could say, well, we don't need troops here and we don't need troops there. But to say that anybody that says we're not going to have a smaller and less capable military, and we're not going to have a readiness crisis, and we're not going to be able to respond everywhere we have a vital interest, that's just not true.
Is it fixable?
Well, that's a good question. Because you can't do anything until 2013. I mean, the next year is just going to be ridiculous.
Right.
And that came out of the debate last night, and I was really glad. Nobody in the debate, regardless of where they stand on this, if you want to, if there's a different president in 2013, they are going to have to, and they want to, American military to do the kinds of things it can do in the world today. They're going to have to reinvest in the military and still address how do we get the economy going again? How do we get federal spending down? So everybody recognize, I mean, if you wanted to do that, that's what the next president's going to have to do.
All right, let's talk about Iran. How do we deal with the fact that Iran is, apparently, according to all the experts, getting very, very close to having a nuclear weapon? The question is, can they marry it with their missile technology? How should we respond, or should we just keep our hands off and let Israel do the dirty work here?
Well, that was kind of the Special Olympics question in the last night debate, right? That was a softball for everybody. I mean, nobody was sanguine with the administration on that. Look, I mean, what's the president done? I mean, Iran's been a state sponsor of terrorism since 1985. That we've known they've had a nuclear weapons program since 2002. They've been killing Americans, sending weapons to kill Americans in Iraq since 2005. When the president came in office in the Green Revolution, he saw that the people of the country hate their own leaders, and then he spent his entire presidential term trying to engage with them, which accomplished nothing. So the president's accomplished nothing. Everybody agrees with that. But the reality is look, whoever wins the nomination, and if they defeat the president, when they're president 18 months or so from now, we're going to be in a very different place than we are today. And they're just, who knows the options that they're going to face. So to me, what you really had to listen for the debate, and people who go back and look at this, is don't listen so much to what their particular prescriptions on any policy issue are. Take Syria, for example. Syria is probably going to be in the middle of a civil war 18 months from now. Listen to the character of the person. What kind of commander-in-chief do you think they're going to be? What kind of decisions they're going to make? Because all their policy prescriptions, as they say, what would I do if I were president today? They're going to be meaningless.
James, we've also heard the solution of sanctions. Newt Gingrich brought the whole idea of making sure that Iran can't export oil, gas, and make sure that it's also not getting that as well. Can you talk about that?
I do think that I think the wrong thing is to look at sanctions in isolation. That sanctions as one piece of the puzzle, but the purpose of sanctions to punish the regime, that's not going to work. Sanctions as part of a larger package to help see the end of the rule of those guys that is possible. And I do agree with a number of folks who said in the debate last night. I think that's right. That there are probably globally there's some economic things that are probably not helpful, right? If we heavily sanction Iran and really push it. But on the other hand, what's the alternative? Risking World War III and nuclear holocaust? I mean, come on, give me a break.
One more thing on the super committee and these cuts that are coming to the military. I read a report yesterday that there is a possibility, this is a person's opinion on it, I don't know if Heritage has crunched the numbers on it, but there could be 1 million private sector defense contractor jobs cut over the next couple of years because of these cuts in military spending.
That doesn't sound unrealistic. I mean, we've looked at and the problem, and this is the really terrible thing, is, we don't have the military industrial base that we had 30, 40, 50 years ago. We have a just-in-time military industrial base. If you don't buy, if the government, the free market works. If the government doesn't buy this stuff, they're going to stop doing it. So you look at things that are very complicated, like solid rocket motors. If we stop buying something, then those companies are going to divest themselves of the capability to build that. And then even if you turn around, the next day and say, I want that, it's going to take you years to get that back. If we decided tomorrow we wanted more F-22s, it would take us half a decade to get the F-22 line back in shape.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, James Carafano, thanks for joining us.
Good to have you on, Jim. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys.